Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 474. Before we get started though, Riot has spoiled the newest champion. The Freylord champion for us is Udyr, and very interesting champion, if you will. He's a 4-4 for 5, not that compelling. You know, he's definitely understated, but then he has the on summon or strike, create the swap stance in hand. And so if you're used to the old version of Udyr in League, you would punch something 3 times and then swap stances, I believe, or maybe you just had to push the buttons a whole bunch of times. I don't remember. I played a touch of Udyr, but that's been, I don't know, not a decade ago, but it's been quite a while. But he does, that's his thing, right? He switches between the various combat stances, and you can see the stance here is the 3-mana spell, which then either grants, right? You don't have to play both. It grant a stance to an ally, and then these other stances, they have mana on them, but you don't have to pay it a second time. And so Bear Stance gives +2/+2. Boar Stance gives 0 to regenerate. Ram Stance deals 1 damage to everything, and then Wild Claw Stance gives something 2-0 and Overwhelm. And all in all, pretty powerful stuff, depending on what you need at the current time. If you need to do some blocking, then you might want to give the Boar Stance. If you're trying to close out the game, you need to do Wild Claw Stance. And then the other interesting thing is you don't have to play these stances specifically on Udyr, right? So he's out here doing his stance dance, if you will, and then it's not like these have to just be played on an Udyr card, right? It doesn't say grant a stance to an Udyr, it says grant a stance to an ally. So that means you can, give your Udyr the 0-2. You can give your Braum the +2 and Overwhelm, whatever you want, you can do it. And to the best of my knowledge, you can stack these up, right? You can play Bear Stance and then play Bear Stance again. It doesn't say something about erase the old stance or you can only have one, which, makes sense to a degree, and that, you can't be a bear on top of a bear, you can't be a bear or a tiger at the same time. But it seems as though you can't do that with these. And so if that was the only way to be generating these stances, then I think it would be, fairly meh. Not that interesting, but as you come down here to the end, a lot of the supporting cards also generate stances. And so you should be able to, say, play Vulpine Wanderer, get the stance into your hand, and then if you swing back to Udyr, if you already have one, reduce it to 0. And so when you play him, if you already have the stance in hand, then you can play it for free. And so from that point, you should be able to, make him a 6/6 or make him a 4/6 regenerate or whatever you want to do, which makes him seem much more reasonable. And so I think he's pretty powerful. These stance generators are a little bit understated, but anything that generates a card, I hope that Riot starts moving more and more towards things like Vulpine Wanderer, where it's not, the standard stat line for a 2-drop is 5, and there's just so many 5-stat 2-drops with upside. I'm kind of hoping that upside is limited to kind of like combat-based things, and so a 3/2 for 2 mana that has Challenger is fine. A 3/2 for 2 that generates a card is not fine, and so I'm hoping that they kind of tone down on the card generation, or if your cards are going to be kind of normally statted, maybe that's a Bandle City thing. But otherwise, beyond that, these cards are fine. The All-Seer, I wouldn't be that impressed with, but it does generate the stance, which you can then use to give it Overwhelm. Wrath of the Freylord already has Overwhelm, and then the Shaman's Call. You get the 2 stance swaps in hand, and then use it as kind of a weird pack mentality, if you will. And so I think that's all good and well. And then the other additional things with the Udyrs, it is on summon or strike, so we may find some uses for strikes with Udyrs to get these things going, whether or not that's pairing off with Shiraza to get things like Siphoning Strike, or if we're pairing off with Noxus and getting things like the 5 attack unit gets to strike something, or using Whirling Deaths or whatever. Some interesting things there. And so I think he'll be good to go. This whole deal damage to the Nexuses thing, I'm not sure how I feel about that. The Sejuani and Gangplank ones, to where you had to deal damage on a turn, are slightly different, right? Udyr does let you, say, deal 3 damage to the Nexus 3 times in the same turn, and then that ticks up 3 times, right? You just damage the enemy Nexus. You don't have to do it in a singular go. And then this also should work with like attacking and everything. And so if you attack with 3 overwhelm units, and they all get 3 hits in over your opponent's toughness. That's 3 tick ups for Udyr, where it would only be 1 for Sejuani. And so, I think that's all pretty well and good. And then Udyr, his flip shit in the game. Right, if he's getting +1/+1 for every stance you've cast, it's very easy for him to be like a 10/10 or a 12/12 overwhelm or something, assuming you cast some of the stances on him. Like, I don't know what the stance count in the game would be, but if it's like 3, and you give him +2/+2 +2 0 2 0 and then 0/2, he'd be like a 11/11, right? That's like 3 stances for +4/+4. That take him to 9, then +1/+1 3 times to get him to 12. Then he's going to have overwhelm and stuff. And so, all in all, kind of interesting and strong. His flip, I don't think I'm that interested in. It does play well with all of the battle scarsy kind of themes, since it doesn't just kill off all of your own units. That was one of the things that we historically saw as to be problems with Noxus, as to where you want to play like a Imperial Demolitionist on 2, but you have to kill off your own unit to do it. It is nice that he boosts all of your units before he AoEs everything. And so the Spirits Unleashed is something I'm going to have to try before we play, but it seems like fine but unimpressive. The stances I do all dig, and then the supporting cards all look pretty good. And so, yeah, Udyr, pretty cool, pretty interesting. I guess we would have to go and pull up some of the like supporting cards. It should just be a little bit further back. Where are you at? Where here you can see some of these self-damage plus regenerate kind of things. This is what Battle Scars wanted to be, if you will. And so it is interesting seeing these guys with regenerate. I think Troll Chant could be kind of interesting in these terms, but the new cards here with having like Overwhelm is always nice. A lot of the self-damaging stuff is kind of nice. The only problem I think in terms of Udyr is these cards are all fairly expensive, and so if you are looking to pull off the battle scars, I think you might have to look towards pairing with Noxus, not for the abilities, but more so just to have the cheaper units in play in the early game. But interesting set of abilities. I think in terms of champions, where we kind of looked at as Yuumi as just being a support champion, we looked at Galio as probably having to be a support champion just because he's so expensive. I could see Udyr as being a legitimate build-around champion. And so I don't think he's up to the same power level of like a Sejuani. I think Sejuani's probably just stronger than him, especially as we see all these rando cards like Tusk Speaker here, dealing 1 to all the Nexuses and make it easier to flip your Sejuanis. That's probably just going to push her up higher than it does, letting Udyr overtake her. But it seems like he should probably be on the fringe of like tier 2 and tier 3. Like, I think he'll probably come into the game as a tier 3 champion, but definitely closer to the tier 2 side of things as opposed to the tier 4 side of things. But yeah, excited to try it. And as we're jumping into the trial here, it does make me like a little sad to see this stuff. Like, the cards always get released on Wednesdays, but then the reset for Expedition doesn't happen until Thursday. And so it's like Wednesday will roll around. I'll try my best to put together a video with the new cards, but you have to do the thing to where either now I just don't make content, right, because I'm spending my Expedition trials, or when Tuesday rolls around, I can open the packs and see if there's a new champion, and then if we get through the draft and there's no new champions, I have to wait 20 minutes for another draft. And there's just like, a limited amount of time to when I can be like, hey, wife, I swear I'm just, hitting reset on these things. Sorry, I've wasted 120 minutes just trying to find one of these new champions. Please understand. And so I'll try my best to get the content rolling with the new cards, but it does give me this like awkward struggle as to where should I just not play Expeditions the week before the cards come out, so I can definitely try to get one of the new champions on the day of release video, or do I just say fuck it and keep playing? And I just tend to say fuck it and keep playing. We'll see some of the new cards as we as we get out there into the battles. But jumping in here, what do we have access to? And so I think I'm just going to go for this Draven. I really enjoy drafting Draven. We don't get to see him as often as we used to. And I know we've drafted Garen, or I think we drafted Garen like a week and a half ago, and then we drafted Jarvan in the past 3 or 4 videos. So I feel like elites have been covered off on, although this is a pretty strong start with elites with a 1-drop and a Bannerman. And I know I've drafted around Kindred within the past couple of weeks as well. And so, yeah, let's go with the Scrap Heap Draven. I love it. You all know how much I love to attack with some units, and Draven, very good at that. And so, we're getting pulled up on the site. If you're not familiar, we're just over here at ftpbus.com. We're just going to be on the front page, or excuse me, the Expedition Helper button. We'll make our way to this little drop-down box and find Draven. Go into the Scrap Heap and see what we're working with. And so, yeah, Draven, he pairs up with Jinx, and this is meant to be a deck to take advantage of discarding stuff. And so we're more commonly seeing Glory and Value these days. That's the Scion, Rumble, hey, I can discard stuff kind of archetype. This is the more classic Draven Jinx, hey, I can discard stuff combo. And Draven is what is the full-on core build around with this kind of thing, right? You have two different aspects of discard that you're looking at. You either need a way to discard your cards, right? So you want something to let you discard Fallen Rider out of your hand, you can do it with Grave Physician or whatever, but Draven gives us the spinning axes to let us discard, or we're looking to discard stuff without really losing out on any value. And so say we're wanting to play the card Rummage, or we're wanting to play Rumble or something to where we need to discard a bunch of cards, but we don't want to be discarding real cards, then the spinning axes are great in those terms as well. And so you get both sides of the coin with this archetype all throughout the deck. If you're looking for ways to discard things, you got, of course, Draven with the spinning axes. Grave Physician is always fine, even if you don't have a discard kind of thing. And then you have Roar of the Slayer as your kind of removal spell discard thing. And then in terms of discarding things to discard, you have all of that as well, right? You have your Fallen Rider as the unit. You have the Reforge mechanic with the Blade Squire and the Rune Weaver. And then, of course, you have the Draven spinning axes. And so, all of that meshes together into some nice little combos. But at the end of the day, this is going to be like an aggressive early game centric deck, right? If we're out here trying to assemble this collection of Reforge units and Draven and like Legion Rearguards and Grenadiers, Fallen Riders, these are all very early game centric units. The only downsides to this archetype is that it doesn't have Whirling Death in it. That's the premier Noxus removal spell. You're kind of stuck with Roar of the Slayers. And it doesn't have like the typical great top end we find in Noxus decks. And so it does have Ancient Warmonger, but it doesn't have the Armored Elephant. Like things like Crowd Favorite are here, but that can be just a little bit more challenging to pull off. So that's it. Just from the start, we're looking to be some kind of aggressive Noxus deck, take advantage of some of these discard strategies. Maybe we'll find a Bandle City champion and go that route. It all just depends on what turns up here. So, okay, interesting set. Not taking the Sun Disc, intern, if you're listening to me out there, this is annoying and awkward as to where if we want to take the Zerath, we're now stuck with the Sun Disc. Like, I accept that this lives here. It is nice if you open up Zerath and you get to start with the Sun Disc, but this is just like so many like feels bad moments as to where if you start with Zerath and don't see Shurima in pack 2, then you have a dead Sun Disc, and then this state here is to where we started not Shurima, now we have a Sun Disc, which would just be a pretty dead card if this is what we're going to draft. And so I wish I had a solution to fix this. I think my acceptable solution is to guarantee that Shurima shows up pack 2. And then if it's a situation like this, then you at least have the knowledge beforehand and it's not as many feels bads. But I think if you take a Sun Disc Zerath in pack 1, you should see a Shurima champion pack 2. But beyond that, not interested in this Enlightenment Karma. If we're trying to be this early game, aggressive, low to the ground Noxus combat deck, we're not going to want to complement that with a deck trying to get to turn 10. If the games go to turn 10, something has gone wrong. And so not taking this Karma, that brings us back to this Viktor. Which is reasonable. This Viktor works fine. Augmented Assault pairs off with Riven, and the idea with this Viktor archetype is that we're using the Reforges to power up the augments, and so this works well for us in multiple ways. As Augmented Assault turns up, we should be able to find some of the Reforged cards, and then things like Viktor and the Augment units get bonuses from Spinning Axes, and then if we find something like Ballistic Bot, the Ballistic Bot always needs a way to get Overwhelmed. You can do that with the Reforges, and just a big nice cycle of things that work together. And so we can pull up the Viktor, Augmented Assault. As far as these decks go, we've spent a lot of time in the past few videos talking about not half-assing our decks, and that's what you can really run into problems with here, is if we're playing like a handful of augment cards and a handful of reforges and a handful of of the discard me kind of things. It's very easy to not just have like a cohesive strategy. And so when these decks come together, I typically just focus on reforge and then let everything else just kind of fall as it is. I think Reforge is what like really makes all of these decks pop, whether or not that is giving quick attack to challengers, putting overwhelm on like a 5 attack unit, like whatever. I feel like that's what really makes this stuff go. And then I feel like augment and these things should be kind of the incidental bonus. And so it just feels like too much if you're trying to be like, okay, well, I'm going to stack all of the armed gearheads and all of the ballistic bots and get these units on board, but then also need to like have ways to give them overwhelm and stuff. And so you tend to either just like stack too heavily on these 1/1s with nothing to boost them, or in it, it's just the half-ass thing all over again. And so we'll see. I want to see how the beginning of the draft shows up. I'm not opposed to just drafting reforges. I'm not opposed to drafting discard strategies. I'm not opposed to drafting augment, but I'm not opposed. I am opposed to drafting all three of them in the same deck. So let's see. Not a bad start with Viktor though. And then how can we upgrade these? And so this is a decent start here with the Blade Squire, right? You do have some of the discard stuff in Zon Knight Urchin, but Affectionate Poro is fairly weak. Armed Gearhead, again, we'll accept them into our deck, but it's not going to be the forefront and the core synergy of our deck. That's what the Blade Squire is going to be. Okay, and so a real collection of turds here. I don't want to jump into Shadow Isle, so we can stay away from that. Blade's Edge, Death Lotus are both terrible cards. I don't really want to be playing Death Lotus in a deck that has all of these 1 health units, and then Blade's Edge is just too weak. And so the Trifari and Sigil of Malice are fine. By no means super strong, but they are serviceable. Coming out of this one, I do really like the Glory Seekers in this deck. I'm a huge fan of assembling the quick attack challenge kind of things, and then we do get to pick up the very good top end and the Tusk Raider here. I think this is good. I could see an argument for picking up the Rearguard Grave Physician, but both of these cards to the left are rare, and we aren't as likely to find these as the drafts go on. But this is, very much how we would want these synergy packs to look out. Ideally, the synergy is not going to be Reputation. It's going to be one of the other 3 Riven archetypes, but it's not the worst. We can definitely get some good things going here. All right, so with this, I'm not interested in the Shurima cards. We just definitely want to stay within Noxus P and Z. And I'm looking at Rummage Veteran Investigator here. We should be able to take advantage of Rummage. This is a nice discard card. And then the Veteran Investigator, if we do land on this like really low to the ground aggressive deck, we'd find a lot of spaces to where opponent has like 6 cards in hand and then giving them an extra one doesn't matter, but it does really matter for us. And that's where we ultimately kind of want this deck to be going. And so I think that's okay. Sharpened Resolve, Thorn of the Rose are just both filler cards, and both of these serve a build-around component for us. With this, I do like the Prodigy. The 3-attack quick attacker is good, along with the Reforge. I think that's where we're going with this. The Flame Chompers, I'm just like never really impressed with. It is nice to be a free discard, but I find too often we discard it and then it doesn't do anything on board. It can be kind of alleviated with Reforges, right? It's a great target for the +2 attack Reforge, but I'm going to go with the good aggression here in the Prodigy. Coming out of this one, Shiraza is always an interesting choice with the Reforges, right? If we get to go full ham with Shiraza and give her a Riven Sword, that's a pretty powerful collection of things to do. Maybe we do this just for the memes. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see if we can't pull this off at some point today, putting the Riven Sword on Shiraza. The pick here, for those of you going for 7, is the Glory Seeker Brutal Hunter. But I want to get this. I want to get this meme value out of Shiraza today. Sometimes you got to just come out here and have a little bit of fun, right? And so let's see if we can't pull that off while we're at it. Okay, coming out of these, I like this other Academy Prodigy. And then the Chump Wump does give us some discard stuff, right? So we can discard Rummages, the Mushroom Clouds to Rummages or to the Spinning Axes or stuff. It's got some good synergies here. Oh my gosh, we got a second one? Okay, we're taking this Shiraza, and then we got to find all of the reforges that we can. That's going to be the key and core build around for us. Coming out of this one, we got another Glory Seeker. Looks pretty good, especially if we're going to try to focus on the reforges. Coming in here, I don't think we need to go out of our way to pick up a gotcha. We do have the one Whirling Death already, and so we can let that go. Shady character is pretty weak. I think we're just stuck with the Brutal Hunter out of this pack. Okay, man, I would be okay with one of these kind of game-ending cards, both Intimidating Roar or Shunpo, but they're both worse than Decisive Maneuvers, and I don't want two. So we'll let that go. I'm looking more towards just the burn spells down here to the end. We have, not a non-zero chance to hit Reputation with these. Being able to go face is kind of nice. And then with our last one, I'm just going to pick up the Rear Guard. The Wrathful Rider plays well with the Reforges if we can assemble them, but the rest of these cards are all pretty weak. Okay, so where do we stand here? I kind of like picking up this Calling Strike. The Noble Rebel is good, but we didn't land like completely into the discard strategy. So let's go ahead and swap that as well. And okay, getting ready for battle. But before we can attack, you know what time it is. We do have to go and turn something premium. Got to pay the gods for the pay-to-win lifestyle. Let's see what we can find. There's not going to be much. It's just a bunch of Jace cards at common. Maybe we'll find a spell. Nope, we don't have any of these. All right, off to the rares, paying the big price for you all. We got anything here? Brutal Hunter, we just drafted like 4 of. I know we have an Insightful Investigator as well, but let's go with the Brutal Hunter today. All right, looking good, looking good. Let's get to battle. And so, I think this is going to be cool. I feel like at least one game throughout this draft, we're going to get a Riven Sworded Shiraza, and she's going to just get the ultimate blasting in. This is going to be great. I think as far as deck building goes, we're going to have to go all in on finding Reforges. And that probably means that at champion pick 3 and 4, we need to switch over to Rivens, right? We haven't landed completely on this discard archetype anyways, so passing up on Dravens isn't that huge of a deal. And I think, if we can add in Rivens and get those additional discard kind of things going, that's going to give us the maximum meme value on these Shirazas. All right, not a bad start here. Not a bad start. So, hope everyone out there is having a delightful Sunday, getting prepared to watch the Super Bowl. We're cheering for the Bengals. I just don't like the Rams. There's too many players on the Rams that I just don't like. I think Jalen Ramsey has a horrible attitude. I think Aaron Donald has a horrible attitude. I don't buy into the feel bad for Matthew Stafford angle. Like, nobody was making Matthew Stafford stay and play in Detroit. Nobody said, he didn't like pull a Scottie Pippen and get like a really shitty 10-year contract or something. Like, he re-signed contracts over and over again with the with the Lions, and it's unfortunate they never assembled a good team around him. And I think it speaks a lot to his abilities that he was able to take the team ahead and really like charge forward. But I don't buy into feeling bad for him. They're paying him $35 million a year in Detroit. It's hard to feel bad for that kind of thing. But here, like, I don't think I can buy into not playing our Glory Seeker, right? He's going to play a 3/3 or something here. He's going to play a 3-drop. And then if we can trade our 2 mana for his 3, it's fine. Even better. And so... right, we don't have like the full collection of Reforges to where we can expect the Glory Seeker to have really good combats. And so I think given how slow opponents played, if we just get the trade, then that's pretty good.
I have been sent by the king himself.
Too slow for this? We can Whirling Death it down. I was hoping we'd get a Thorn of the Rose this turn. But we're just going to have to lose a unit that's okay. I was really hoping here that we could like get a trade, and then next turn we can make a big like Thorn of the Rose type stun play, right? That's where I was angling our mana and everything, is to have 1 mana banked up, adding a Thorn of the Rose to the board, stunning their 5-drop, and then just crashing for a ton of damage. But I think this is still okay. Let's lead with the Thorn. I'd rather see them, you know, play a 4-drop that they don't want to before we give them a chance to draw a card here. But we're going to play the Veteran Investigator as well. Okay. This is not angling how I expected it to. Where'd you go, Guile? Here it is. There's no more plays? Is he going to drop another Frostbite on us? So strange. I was thinking that we were playing against a less experienced opponent, and I feel like that's just kind of where we've landed here. The Tusk Raider should be quite strong at shutting this down, though. Let's see. I mean, we have the Whirling Death weapon hilt. I mean, we might be able to pull this off on the Sejuani. I was leaning towards just like playing the elephant and just dealing with it next turn. I think that's probably where we should be. Like, we'll play the elephant. He's going to get good hooks on a couple of units, but it's going to trade out with the Honored Lord. Well, we should have just waited till after combat to play this right. But I think this will still be okay. Harsh winds. It's like, do we ever just go ham and try and puff cap? I don't think I'm quite to the puff cap point here. What are we chunking in for? 3? Let's start with the rummage. If we pick up another trick or something, we might be able to pull it off here. But nope, that's okay. We'll take him to 4 and then be fully wide. Oof. Okay. You're always interesting, insightful investigator. Look at all these 2s we have in our hand. Oh geez, Jarvan? Okay. Jarvan's at least going to eat up all of their mana here. So, like, Jarvan's definitely hooking Reckless Trifarian. And then we can Whirling Death him down. And still follow up with a bunch of units. We'll use the Trifarian for the Whirling Death so it doesn't get Brittle Steeled. Then we should be okay here. We can get aced by like an Ice Shard, but other than that, not too much to worry about. Got him. Okay. On to the next one. Where are we at? Where are these Rivens at? Here it is, down here to the right. I was like, there's got to be showing us a Riven. That's what we're definitely going to be looking for. I don't know if I've seen it happen like this before. I'm sure we have, but where it has both of the archetypes as options. I was curious if it was going to show us a different Riven outside of Augmented Assault. But nonetheless, Riven is here. That is our path to Shiraza Reforges. I'm ready for it. Did you know that Shiraza and Kato were lovers? Maybe we'll get the tooltip that comes up and tells us that. That's what these are called, right? Tooltips down here at the bottom. Little tips, life nuggets for you to learn. the Ionia Allegiance. I think we want to be more on the aggressive end of things here. Calling Strikes are kind of interesting because you can use them to kill both Zed and Lee Sin. Can we ever really stop a Zed draw? Fine. I mean, he only has one copy of it. I don't like it. I want to play my house spider. There we go. But Ionia only should have a lot of problems with Draven. Like, they can bounce him. The only way that they typically have to kill him would be with, like, a Lightning Rush, which you shouldn't see too much of. I guess Lightning Rush probably lives in the least, not in the Yasuo archetype, whatever the new one is with Kennen, but it's not something I would, like, go out of my way to play around against this deck. Nice draw here as well with the Fallen Rider, so we can Spinning Axe without discarding real cards. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Watch and learn.
What you got for us? Opponent's up to some kind of shenanigans here. Okay. I mean, you knew this was coming. We get 2 Twin Disciplines for Draven. That's a pretty good exchange at this stage of the game. Like, we're getting so wide here that they should have, like, real trouble dealing with our board. So I think this is okay. I wonder if, like, he would ever have his angle be, like, I'm just willing to trade this Twin Disciplines for the worst card in your hand. Maybe. Bleed and Follow. Wow, even better. Okay. So yeah, the main reason I was happy with all that stuff, even if he has the additional Twin Disciplines to take down the Draven, then he's not getting on board, right? He's just adding, he's just preventing a bit of damage. He's spent all of his mana. He's not adding units to the board, and we're going to continue to get wider here. So that feels pretty good. Going to look to add Risen, Rider, Trifari, and Hopeful here. And then kind of like in that previous game to where we were hoping for this board to where opponent just plays a 5-drop and we stun it with Thorn of the Rose. That feels like a pretty big win. This builds up into that as well, assuming this Calling Strike works. There's only one card that could get him out of that. There's the Rush, right? 1-0 attack and quick attack. Maybe this, like, Blade Squire is not the choice when we have the Elixir of Wrath in hand. I just, like, I'm still to this stage where, like, I don't care if we lose Draven. We're chunking in so much damage here. If opponent plays, like, a 4-drop or a 5-drop and we just get to stun it with Thorn of the Rose, it puts us just so far ahead. Could block with Draven for the Spinning Axe, but it doesn't seem great. Which is this, 10, 15, still looks lethal? I think maybe lethal? If he didn't have another unit, right? It'd be 10, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't at that space to where we were 1 damage away from killing him, and it would have been better to have the Elixir than the Blade Squire. Take him to 4. Looks good. I wonder where we'd be if we just say, like, blocked Zed with the Spiderling and then put a just had an additional unit on the board. There's definitely a world where he passes you. Well, okay, let's add Shiraza. I was gonna say, I can't, like, imagine him attacking here, right? Because this is one of these spaces as to where the board limit gets in the way. Like, if he makes a trade, we can just refill out our board and then still just continue in with our attacks. but that was probably also a space where he just needs something to go right, and he needs to be able to hook one of our little spiderlings and just have the win and survive. But coming here, I want to hang on to the rummage. It's just nice having this little bit of card advantage in a deck like this. I'm not really excited about the Insightful Investigator. Like, we do have this mountain of 2-drops. It's just the games never come together where this like card draw matters. I'm not a huge fan of Minotaur Reckoner, but I think it's better the Investigator here. Right, the way that we're going to see this like Investigator and Minotaur Reckoner work is, like, at least with the Reckoner, you can play it and then get a stun and then attack with a full board, to where if the game is coming down to us playing a bunch of 2-drops to generate card advantage over multiple turns, something's gone wrong, and we're probably not winning that game anyways. Even in this deck that has like 12 2-drops in it or whatever the count was. All right, Shiraza, I see you. We're not quite ready. we don't have the Riven Swords just yet. Can't wait to pull this off. This is gonna be sweet. Okay, pretty good chance we just have to trade away the Hopeful here, but it's not horrible. Right, there's some decks where you might realistically say they may not have a 2-drop here, but against Bandle City, they almost always have the unit. And then being out here against Poppy, it is kind of nice to keep their board empty, right? If they're going to get their advantages out of having a completely full board, then having that Poppy down, or having the units just aced, really weakens how much Poppy can do. It is weird he's playing 2 Quins, 1 Poppy, but that's the way I kind of look at it.
To serve the greater good.
We'll see. This should be a decent space for us. I think we can get a big blast in with the Glory Seeker. Yeah, this works. So we can play Glory Seeker. We're going to stun the Badger Bear. Hook the 3/3 with our Glory Seeker. Punch in for 10. And then see if we can't just win with our width.
It's my time.
Face me.
Interesting calling strike. It's just like how much I was kind of like envisioning, given the cards that we had, we would have to play the Glory Seeker. And then next turn, we can add the Tusk Raider. There's not too many cards that they have that interact positively with Tusk Raider. But now that we have the Calling Strike, we could potentially just kill a unit on his turn now. And not have as much problems. We're just taking this, no biggie. Right, so if we say Calling Strike the Sergeant, we hook the Badger Bear. Looks like that leaves us a couple points short. To whereas next turn, say we play the Tusk Raider, he blocks it with the Badger Bear, we Whirling Death the Badger Bear. That starts to be a struggle if he has a barrier, though. Leaning towards this now. 3 power less. Try and take down Vanguard Sergeant. And now we have like the open if we want it. I think we have to take it.
I'll show the hunters.
You're mine. No closer.
What if he has the single combat, right? I think we still use this one. He's going to want a single combat down. We should... I don't want to just use like a small one. Maybe we do use the small one here. So if he says like single combat onto Glory Seeker, it still protects our 5/1.
Remember me.
This is one of these fantastic places for a veteran investigator, right? Opponent has 5 cards in hand plus 4 Demacia, and so they're never going to be able to play all their cards before they run out of mana, but we most certainly can. Rummage, okay. Shiraza, nowhere near the Riven Sword, but one could dream.
Strength and grace, beauty in the blade.
Let's wait and see. He doesn't have the mana to afford Demacia, which is kind of nice. But the new question is, do we have to like start throwing blocks in front of this thing just to wear down its health? And this 2 should be good enough. It is kind of tempting to throw a Thorn of the Rose in front of it, but we just need to get in for 2 damage here. I think we're okay. And now he has exactly 15 on board, which is kind of unfortunate, but I think I'm okay to add the Tusk Raider now because it shuts down the attack with the Blade Keeper. Okay. I feel like he's given up and doesn't have combat tricks here. He's just going for width. Sigil of Malice. Things can go wrong. Let's see if we can't get them to spend some mana before we play the Sigil. Excellent. Okay, so we're picking up another Riven. Looks pretty good to me. Glory Seeker with the Tusk Raider. So our top end is pretty good now. Wouldn't be opposed to trading away Wrathful Rider, but we have our 2 Elephants. Reckoner, that's fine. 2 or 3 is where I usually like to be in these expensive kind of cards. If we pick up a Savage Reckoner or a 3rd Elephant or a Kato or a Captain Farron or whatever, something high-powered, I'm not opposed to it, but 2 is a pretty good place to be in right now. Another Glory Seeker. Needs more Reforges. This is one of these worlds where we need like the physical card might. I don't know. I mean, our deck, we have 2 Rivens, we have the 1 Blade Squire and like 1 Weapon Hilt. We don't have any Rune Weavers, and so it's gonna be tough to pull off these Shirazas. But we got some trade picks ahead of us. We can find something. Got to see if we can't fully unlock the memes. Yay, Pantheon, Garen, Poppy. Sure what we're supposed to be seeing out of this. It's like the like Poppy wants you to have a completely wide board, where Pantheon wants you to be going tall on top of a single unit. It's not a collection of champions that synergize particularly well together. Saga Seeker it is. Block. Do they hit? Well, he's playing all of the factions. Let's be real. There's definitely a chance where we add the Glory Seeker and then there's something weird that happens. So this is fine. We'll go ahead and drop her. I want to spend the mana because there is a decent chance that we're just going to be open attacking on turn 4. And so I want to just go ahead and drop her down now. Interesting. Continuing to do nothing. I'm fine with this. Like, what's if his play is like Pantheon? We answer him pretty reasonably, right? His standard play with Pantheon would be like a +1/+2 or an. Okay, let's just keep going. Elixir of Wrath is strong against all this. The Spinning Axe is strong against all this. Can't think he's going to be happy with getting his board aced this turn. I would think his intent is to put the 3/4 in front of Draven, the 3/2 in front of our 5/1, and then we blast in for a million or 10. 10 and a million are pretty close together. Push us down to the left. Okay. I guess the downside to the Elixir of Wrath play would have been a Hush. But we dealing 8? It's also pretty tempting to just save the Elixir for lethal, but I think this is okay. If we get the full clear on his board, this game's pretty much done. Looks like he's thinking about the Hush. He hushes on Draven. Why? It doesn't do anything. Okay. Maybe those other guys, Draven. Don't count out Shiraza. Okay. So what can we upgrade with here? It is a reforged in the weapon hilt, but it's not the good ones, right? If this was a rune weaver for a weapon hilt, I would snap it. We probably still need to go for them. Our counts are so low, and if we're ever gonna have any of the memes today, we gotta put forth the effort to making it happen. Maybe we'll get the opportunity for more reforged trades now that we've done that one. So many 3-faction decks today. Nobody's been watching my videos and getting the memo that these are not good. It's like, I don't know. If this is like a base Lux Heimerdinger deck, that's what you would expect. I guess this could be the world where you start like Lux Callista, but then you pick up a Heimer. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to get the message out there more clear. 3-faction decks are not any good. What? All right. Not a great opener for us, seeing the Glory Seeker into the Penitent Squire. What is happening here? He's playing 3 factions, no elite champions, right? There's no Jarvan, there's no Garen, there's not even like Quinn. He's playing a 3-faction spell-based deck with Callista, but he's hitting on the Tattered Banner on turn 1 with his thing. All right, guy. All right. Maybe this is how you make 3-faction decks good. you just roll as high as you can every single game. All right, that's good enough for the Glory Seeker. We'll take our 2 for 1. All right, I'm just having bad memories of that dude playing 3 factions and hitting on the Vanguard Bannerman. That shit was just absurd. the trash that we have to go through. All right, let's check our fragment though. We might be in line for a cool Shiraza play. We did hit the Overwhelm. I think I kind of want to save it for next turn. The question here is like, what can we get away with? I think we can drop the Reckless Trifarian. It's tough for them to get good blocks onto this thing. It feels a little bit more dangerous. Like the perfect world play would be like we drop a Brutal Hunter and then he just can't do anything, or we drop a Brutal Hunter and he plays like a 3/3, or he plays a Spirit Leech. But the Reckless Trifarian is what feels like it has the largest collection of safe turns. All right, do you just want to go all in for it on this on this Shiraza? I think she is potentially the play. No, she's not going to be the play. Let's be real. We need to get this Brutal Hunter down. But then rolling into next turn, are we just going to play the Hunter into Armored Elephant? How are we doing this? And like, how bad is it if opponent has a back-to-back? Because it's, if we want to get like the sword going, it's going to be 2 for a weapon hilt, 3 for all of the things, and then 1 for the sword itself, so it's going to be 6 mana. But I want this Brutal Hunter to have quick attack. All right. Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. Oh shit, she had Challenger? Oh shit. That slipped my mind. Okay. I, for I forgot about... Oh, okay. Our Riven didn't die. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So if we're going to go big, we can still drop Draven, right? We calculated that it was going to take 6 mana to make this really sweet Shiraza play. I'm not sure if we're going to get there. She comes back with Barrier. That's kind of lame. All right.
Shine with me.
People. Some of us are out here trying to have fun. Oh shit, hang on. Can we get this up to 10? Not without the things already. Okay. Where did you go? Sigil, weapon hilt. Okay. Sure. This is actual do nothing. And a gotcha. Okay.
Pushing my limits.
All right. Guess it wasn't actual do nothing that spawned a final spark, but man, we're gonna lose our Shiraza now. We had such cool plays lined up with this. People, man, people don't like to have fun. I don't know what their deal is.
A beacon through the dark.
So are we just gonna have to be like herder? Here's a armor. Here's an armored elephant with a ribbon sword on it. Like that's not fun. People. She gets barrier again. Sure. All right, let's drop the elephant. I was wanting to play the ballistic bot so that we can pull off some of these augments with it, but not quite enough happening here. Doesn't attack. Okay. So if we want to play the sword, it's now 4 mana. So we can't play the Brutal Hunter and the ballistic bot and the sword. Okay.
We will have blood.
Lining up something big here. What is this thing? One away from our reputation.
This place reeks of foul magic.
Huh.
Rude.
That unit doesn't seem particularly relevant. So let's see. Do we go for the sword this turn? I mean, I would like to. It's awkward in terms of if we want to hook down Lux, we have to put both the sword and the +2 attack on the Brutal Hunter. And I guess it's fine. She just leaves it kind of open to getting killed by a final spark next turn. So we can try that. I mean, he doesn't have a detain in hand from the detain maker. He could have one naturally in hand or some like a concerted strike to deal with this dum-dum, but Callista is not it. And we should be okay here. Even if they have like a sharp sight, we can still spinning axe through it. Okay, getting close. If we played a 6 mana spell, it's like you gotta stop and think if we can play an iterative improvement. Which way is he turning this? He's taking the Brutal Hunter. I think that's okay. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it, but I mean, the angle I'm looking to take now that they're at 7 is to just iterative improvement our Armored Elephant and see if we can't overwhelm through. Did have a detain. Oh, he just picked it up, right? He just played the Hex Tech thing. Are we really gonna have to... Oh, he detains the Brutal Hunter onto Callista, so he's gonna hook our elephant with her. Or he's gonna hook our elephant. Okay. So we'll copy the Brutal Hunter in case we have to do stuff next turn. Not real happy about this, given that opponent should have a better late game than us. But playing the Chump Wump should shut down all of their attacks. And the Ballistic Bot's not horrible here. I mean, it's kind of in a space to where it can deal some face damage. Right? We got the 2 from the Sigil, the 1 from the Ballistic Bot kind of things. Could be okay.
To serve the greater good.
Demacia shall prevail.
Okay. So now we have this quick attack hook onto Callista. We have the Glory Seeker hook onto the Brutal Hunter. It's still probably worth it an attack with the Chump Wump into these 2 units he has on board. Detains the Brutal Hunter. Wow, he's really dropping these detains on his high quality units. So what's under here? The Elephant? Oh, this captured Brutal Hunter. Do we care if this Callista flips? That's where this turn is starting to go. I don't think it's horrible. I think this is okay. We can't do anything about it.
I'll cut them apart. You're mine.
Hang on. If we, Can we let him get Callista? I think the Callista's okay. I'm back to liking this.
Face me.
The question is, do we want to hit with the Ballistic Bot? I don't think we can hit with the bot. Okay. We're just too close to getting lethals without him. So this happens. We get a dude back. I think I'm also... do we ever get kills with the Sigil of Malice? That's where this starts to turn slightly awkward. Right, I don't think we want this dum-dum attacking. We can play around the Callista to a degree. I think we have to get this off board. And then I think I want to drop 1 Mushroom Cloud. The damage... Have we played our Rummage yet? Maybe we don't. What discard stuff do we have? We have Rummage? I think that's it? Okay, let's play 1. That's just like the singular card in here to deal... that cares about the discard. And if we draw Rummage now, we'll just discard Spinning Axe to it. Okay, Weapons of the Lost is big. Should be pretty close to lethal with this now. I wanted to kind of give him the opportunity to put a small unit on the board we can kill. Oh, that's going to put a lot of units on the board. Wow. Well, I mean, our chances of lethal are too low, I think. What does she have detained again? The Brutal Hunter? So we can, Weapons of the Lost Callista, hook her with the Brutal Hunter. I think that's where we have to go. I don't see us getting us a lethal on the next turn. We just need more time with these ballistic bots. Alright, this is what it's going to come down to right here. Fuck. Okay. Might just be dead now. Okay. So we can... Yeah, it's gonna... Well, he might play cards before he attacks, so I think that would be our saving grace. We need to be able to block both Callista and block T-Hex. The Glory Seeker's not blocking. Fuck, what a dumb game. Alright. Yeah, that just feels like one of those games to where you're never 100% favorite. We'll leave it at that. No games where you're 100% favorite. Okay. Moving on, though. What do we think about these? I'm fine to kind of get rid of iterative improvement, but we don't have like the tools to really pop off with these Glory Seekers. We don't have the quick attack support. We don't have enough reforges. I think we'll let that go. I don't want the Wrathful Rider. I'm kind of okay with like swapping out House Spiders. It's like if we don't have like a play where we want to make the Glory Seeker, then it's like the next best thing. I think we can skip over this one. Oh man, this is like, it's wild having to run into this stuff. I don't see where like the deck building decisions come together as to where like wanting to play 3 factions is ever good. Like given the like cards and champions they had there, it's like I assume that they started out with like Callista, right? Callista is champion 1. They probably took Lux as champion 2. But then, like, what P and Z things are happening to make you want to pick Heimerdinger? Or what, like, how does this draft come together to where it's like you start with Heimer and want Callista, you start with, like, those collection of 3 champions, I just don't see how it all comes together. And then, like, I don't think they actually had any 6-cost spells in their deck, right? I didn't see where that Hextech thing came from, but I think it came off of the Flash of Brilliance. And it's just like... I don't know. Maybe it's on us for not being able to overcome that, but games like that are a little bit frustrating. But we won't let the Tilt Monster get the best of us. We'll put that behind us. Get out here ready to battle with this Fiora Shen and see what we can do. So I think I want to drop the Hopeful here. If he, like... Oh, do we just get the hit? I was like, if he doesn't have the unit, then he's taking the same amount of damage. But if he does, I think I want to keep our trade options open for the future, right? We get to kind of pick and choose with the Glory Seeker when it's getting into battle with things to where it just doesn't work with the Hopeful. Oh. What?
Break the ties that
Well, I was trying to like piece that together how that was going to work out with us playing our Noxus Blast. He just forgot to play the barrier. Oh, LOL. All right, well that game happened. Moving on. And so, again, I'm not opposed to another Tusk Raider, but I think I want to keep our interactivity in the Weapons of the Lost. We don't have too much in terms of removal and stuff, and most of it's just a small, like, Sigil of Malice kind of thing. And so, let's hang on to that. Don't want the Tactician. Keeping our Shirazas. Off we go. Man. The thing that kind of, like, gets me is if you're gonna make a barrier hook, then you're probably going to want to just hook our best unit, right? Like he wants to hook our 5/2. And so it was like they willingly chose to hook our 2-1 with the Fiora. I'm curious if they just haven't played Fiora since she got nerfed down to 2 health. And the idea in their head was that they were just going to get a value hook onto our unit with Fiora. And then they're just like, oh, fuck. She didn't have 3 health anymore. But all right. Not bad here. Decent little aggressive start. We'll throw down the Prodigy. There shouldn't be too much out of Mono Targon that interacts positively with this, but I don't want to see them play some dumb, like, value, like, hey, look at me, I just drew my Starry Scamp, and, oh, that's free. Right. Interesting. There's just a lot of bad turns for a Trifarian Glory Seeker there. Just prevented the damage all right from the start.
Nothing can stop me.
And Diana. Damn. I was going to say, I thought we were about to get this like really good lineup to where we'd be able to play the Trifarian here and then double Glory Seeker next turn. And so if we're trading our unit for his Charger, then that looks pretty good, but not quite how that played out. No plays? Alright. I wanted to be a little safe with the Whirling Death there. And it also keeps us lined up for the Weapons of the Lost next turn if we bank this 3 mana into 5. Switch to Big Noxus instead of Little Noxus. Okay. He draws 1 dragon, so he just picked up Aurelion Soul. These decks today. These decks. Alright, Moondreamer is slightly problematic. I think we still want to just get the big boy, and then we can look to potentially taking this down with the Glory Seeker next turn or something. But Prodigy looks fairly safe here. We can add the Glory Seeker if we want. Gotta battle in with this Moondreamer at some point. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, okay, I thought it was going to kill our unit. These games today have been fucking stressful. He star charts, okay. I wonder if he's going to try and star chart just for, like, the Equinox. I mean, that's just going to mean we're trading a 6-1 instead of our 5-1. Sure. Prevented a point of damage. Alright, but this is getting to that nice space to where if he wants to, say, play a 6-drop or something here, then the Reckoner should be able to shut it down. So hopefully we can chunk in some massive damage next turn. Nope. Maybe we're gonna finally get that Shiraza hit in. She's nowhere near having a sword, but she's got to strike the Nexus. He said, "What? Look at that. Is Kato just throwing her? Is that their thing? Kato the Arm just like bombs his girlfriend around the arena?" Oh, jeez. What just happened? He played some kind of card when I was doing some analysis there. All right, he played the heal 2. We went to Wrathful Rider, so we could still both Noxus Blast and Whirling Death. So we may find ourselves in a place to where we can actually get a kill this turn.
What do you see from your lofty perch? The vault of heaven drawn in twinkling lights.
I think I'm okay with just the trade.
My reputation.
We still get the small stun next turn, but it lets us work with some of this. Oh, we lose our stun abilities. So many Equinoxes today. All right. So the scary thing with our next attack is opponent has gotten to the point to where they can play Aurelion Soul, right? So we definitely have to worry about a Soul coming down next turn. But we did just pick up our Overwhelmer.
Whatever the cost.
How bad is it if he plays Aurelion Soul, right? We have the Glory Seeker to just get the hook anyways. Well, we want to start with this, right? We want to see if we hit an Overwhelm fragment. We did. So now we can... we just never need to risk that, right? Then we could just Whirling Death down Involus Vox. The worry here is him having a Hush. So I think I want to go left to right with it here. So if he's going to Hush our Tusk Raider, then we still get the kill with the Brutal Reckoner. Got him. So many decks today. He played like 3 or 4 star charts on Equinoxes just to... Things are happening. But all right, let's get ourselves ready for the final battle. I'm actually okay with picking up a Shunpo. It's a nice game ender. I like having one of these. It's the first we've seen. I think I'm okay with that. On to the next one. Don't think we need more Tusk Raiders, at least not for Thorn of the Rose. I'm going to skip over all of these. I definitely don't want Plaza Guardians. On to the next one. It says, no, you do not want Shunpo. Just please trade it away. No, we can't do any of these. Well, we could pick up a Hopeful for a House Spider. I think I actually do like this. We don't have a lot of the go wide payoff, right? We don't have Decisive Maneuvers. We don't have Arena Battlecasters. We don't have the Ogre. And it's just much easier to get more stats out of the Hopeful. I think that's okay. Here, don't want to make any of these. We need to hang on to our burn spells. So many Shunpos. It's like it offers me up the Shunpo, and then it was, nah, man, I want it back. You can't have that. But here, let's skip over here. We already have 2 Brutal Hunters. I don't feel like we need any. We only have 1. Still don't think we need more. These Shirazas can be kind of awkward. And the last one, Iterative Improvement for Whirling Death is okay. I think I like this. All right, pick up that last removal spell. Good. All right, and then our last shot, the last chance one could have to pull off the Shiraza combo. I can't believe it didn't just offer us up a bunch of Kato the Arms. Not only because they're totally dating, or whatever the tooltip says, but it's just like the great combo with her to make her that 6-attack Overwhelmer. It's much easier to do than pulling off a Riven Sword, but we didn't get that option. We got to do it the hard way. Okay, Garen Teemo. Not a bad start here. Pretty good looking curve. I'm curious if this is actually an Elites deck that just happens to have Teemo as the other champion, or if we're going to see the mishmash of strategies that we've been seeing throughout the day today. But here, I think we want to lead with the Hopeful. We don't need to make a value play for the Academy Prodigy. Let's just go ahead and keep this board empty and go for the trades. Yep. Not as good as I would have hoped. I was expecting this to be like a Succession or a real unit like a Battlesmith or something. It's just been so weird, the stuff that we've run into today. I was not expecting this to be a day full of clump of wumps coming out of the deck that's maining Garen. And so, I don't know. Maybe we're the ones losing it and not our opponents, but it's been weird. All right, ready for Academy Prodigy. I don't want to go like ham with this Glory Seeker. This is one of our good ways to take down Garen. So, yeah, on this board, we're not going to get any good hooks. I'm fine to stop just playing units. I mean, he's actually playing a Teemo deck, right? But he has multiple copies of Garen, right? If he had 3 copies of Teemo, this would be on the left. Like, I don't know. Maybe I've lost my edge or something, and I just don't know what's right anymore. But we got ourselves in a pretty powerful board here. Sure. This is where like a Shunpo is going to be quite strong. Alright, he drops the Garen. I'm not like super worried about him this turn. It's coming into next turn when we need to try and Glory Seek him down. But we have to spend our mana. So I think we just add Viktor. Viktor stops both of the veteran investigators. I don't really want to play Hex Core Upgrade. Why? Why are you attacking with these? I'll take the bait. That's weird. Maybe he's just trying to punch in that final damage. Okay. So, are we gonna go for Shunpo this turn? I don't... I think we probably are. So let's do this. Let's add the Hopeful. We can add the Glory Seeker. And then we can look to follow up with Shunpo. Should we need to attack up into Garen, then we do still have 2 spinning axes and plenty of shit to discard to it. I think this is okay. Playing a do nothing before combat, that's pretty good.
I'll cut them apart. Face me.
Let's do this.
Let's leave... Well, Viktor's okay, right? He has Augment, so we can just discard 1 spinning axe to have him take down one of these units. I think that's good. Now, the new question, if we're going to try and lethal now... Well, we have lethal with our units anyways, but I think we want to just go ahead and spinning axe Garen, or spinning axe Draven. So let's discard Hex Core. Draven gets a boost. Goes to the Augment down here. Let's go ahead and try and get the flip. We'll discard Brutal Hunter, so if it goes to next turn, we'll just play the Ogre. He has a Mystic Shot. This is really painful. Oh no, you know what the downside to this play is? Is we can't Shunpo any of his units away. Shit. We gotta do it like this. Not nearly as exciting. And Mystic Shot. Nope. I'm glad we at least caught that to where we didn't get him to like 3 with just this dead Shunpo in hand. Alright, we should be able to get a kill with the burn spell now, but... Man. Had such higher hopes for this. Alright, Shiraza, we didn't even draw you. But Viktor was critical in taking down the final game, since we... that was literally the first time throughout the entire draft that we found Viktor. All right. Well, we got there. We didn't get to pull off the sweet Shiraza combos, but you know, it was a thought, and it still turned out to be a pretty reasonably successful deck. And so, yeah, an interesting little trial, interesting little run. I'm not sure, you know, where all of the I'm curious what like the win rates stand at as far as these factions go, because this was like we didn't hit on a lot of the real like strengths of Noxus, right? We didn't have a lot of the quick attack challenge things going. We didn't have the reforge things going. We didn't have like the mid game overwhelm thing going. We just had like a bunch of kind of like early game aggressive stuff. And not like any of the big like hits on the kind of build arounds. And so I wanted to pull up and see where the factions stand in terms of win rate. I can't do it from the insights button or we'll lose my draft. And so let me go and pull it up on the LOR Guardian site. And there we go. I was curious where Noxus stood in terms of win rate. I was thinking in my head without seeing anything that that Demacia is clearly in first, and then I wasn't sure if it was going to be like Noxus or Freylord. Like, there's a ton of really good Freylord decks that you can draft. I don't know if that's something that we see like real frequently, but it's kind of one of those things to where you can get into a hot mess if you don't know what you're doing with the Nivea, but it's pretty easy to put together like decent Ashe decks and such. But I was curious where these stood. So it's Demacia in first with the 63% win rate, Noxus with the general 61% win rate. And I think we can set that to like the past 2 weeks. Is this going to fix itself? And then it's, yeah, good. I didn't want kind of like an all-time stat, so it's still pretty similar as to where Demacia, Bandle City, Noxus all right around 61%, Freylord, and the other kind of mid-rangey ones at 58%, and then everything else much lower. And it's tough, right, in terms of some of these factions, especially Bandle City down here at the end, because you would see there's like always the people that go and get deck trackers, right? The people that aren't particularly good at the game usually don't go for deck trackers. It's not to say that like good players don't use them, but the average curve of people that give a shit about tracking their win rates and tracking hands are people that are just on the more competitive end of the spectrum, and in turn tend to be a little bit higher quality of player. And so when you're seeing these things, it's like there's that degree to it of people just looking for deck trackers, and then the next step is people that also care about Expedition tend to be the ones that still use LOR Guardian, since it hasn't been supported for like almost a year now. And so seeing these like win rates pop up here, and Bandle City just like, not Bandle City, but Bilgewater just barely being over 50%, it's a real notion to how bad that faction actually is. Just in terms of, you know, the people most into Expedition, so it's not just like your weekly runners are the ones contributing to that win rate. And so I was curious though, Noxus holding up at number 3 out of the 10 factions, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thought there were 10. I know how the game works, but anyways, we're getting a little diverged from the things to talk about here. And so yeah, with this we did have the options to build, you know, just go all in on this type of strategy. Any of the strategies we talked about, we did have, you know, the minor Reforged theme, and we started seeing Shiraza the Blades, and so okay, we were going to go for the memery in terms of Shiraza that pushes us towards the Reforged. But I think the same things still apply, and the same things still stand, as to you have to pick some of these strategies and just go with it. You can't have this deck that, you know, has a little bit of discard stuff and has a little bit of Reforged stuff and has a little bit of augment stuff and a little bit of 5 attack matters stuff and a little bit of reputation. Like that deck just never really comes together. And so, you know, it did take us to kind of like picking the Shiraza to sit down and say, okay, we're drafting the Reforged mechanic. But you know, we finally kind of got there at one point, and I still think that you know, this isn't one of the decks to where you can like get super hard punished for it if you don't follow into that kind of strategy, right? If the extent of your discard stuff is like Fallen Rider and the dude that draws a card, then like whatever, you're not like super deep into it. But we are definitely seeing with some of those other decks to where you get like hard punished for it, and it's especially like as you abandon from being like a very aggressive deck to being more of a mid-rangey or more of a control deck, to where you have to play across more of the turns of the game to get kind of the synergies and strategies together. It's going to be a lot more punishing. And so as we're at here with our deck with Legion Rearguards and Trifarian Glory Seekers and Trifarian Hopefuls, it's much easier for these decks to still just like pop off and win a game, even if their overarching strategy didn't come together. And so yeah, so we didn't hit it too much here in terms of, you know, hey, lock in on the strategy and find something to do with it, but it was definitely in our mind and something that we were trying to be mindful of and take advantage of as we pushed this on. I assure you, I've drafted too many of these decks to where you're like, oh, I'm going to do stuff with Viktor and do stuff with Reforge and do stuff with this, and then I just don't get enough of a strategy together. But enough to take us to 7. You know, the losses aside, we almost got the perfect run in. Not today, but I had fun nonetheless. I hope you had fun with that as well. And so, looks like we have a loot thing to click on. We've got an essence pouch. Awesome. And that is it. That is going to do it. And so, I hope everyone enjoyed the trial. You learned how to combo with Shiraza a little bit better. maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.